Hi, welcome to the Rose at Home channel. I'm Rose, I am at home, and I am so very glad that you have decided to join me here today when I talk about books set at school. In case you didn't know, I am a teacher and I am back with students. It might still be 100 degrees outside, but we are back in the classroom. Fall has officially started for everything but the weather. Today I decided to talk about books that are set in schools or that are about attending school but were written for adults. If I did this for YA books, we'd be here until Christmas, and as much fun as that might be for me, I don't think you would have the time or the patience to sit around and watch that. So I stuck with adult books, and I'm going to start with the ones that the school is a main part of the plot. First, I have Mark Lawrence's Red Sister. This is the beginning book in a series. There's your cover. This is a series about a young girl who is pretty much an orphan, and she gets kind of saved. I'm trying not to do spoilers here, but she gets saved by a nun who brings her into her school for assassin nuns. So they teach you how to be an assassin and you are a nun. There is a full series of this. I have them. I haven't read past the first. I loved it. Do not judge a series on whether or not I finished it, because that is no way to judge a series. But this is great. Even though it's fairly long, it is still page turning. It's just wonderful from beginning to end. And so the school is, there's a couple of different assassin schools in here. So it's assassin nuns. We start with Red Sister and we move forward, and it's wonderful. The second is a book that I've on occasion called kind of Hunger Games on steroids, and it is Pierce Brown's Red Rising. This is so good, y'all. So again, start of a series, don't judge it because I'm still on book 2. I'm gonna get there, I promise. In this novel, people are divided up by their coloring. So people who are reds have red tinted skin, their eyes are a shade of red, their hair is red, everything about them is red, and they are the lowest social class. There are golds with golden eyes, golden skin, golden hair, and then there are different colors in between. The reds are kept underground to mine and work to fix the planet to make it habitable for the others. And this happens at the very beginning. Our lead character discovers that the planet is inhabitable. There are people living above and out in sunshine and fresh air. They've been lying to the Reds this whole time, so he escapes. Hijinks ensue, but he ends up at a school. And so the bulk of this book is him at this school, and it is a hardcore, I would say they're going for a military type training, but they're very like, no holds barred when it comes to your classmates. We expect you to kill lots of your classmates to prove that you're like as hardcore as we need you to be a part of us. It's so good. As soon as I finished, I immediately ordered the second book, but then I started another book and stuff happens, as you know. But I'm super excited to finish this. I know it's gonna be good. So it's sitting there on the shelf just waiting for me to have this adventure, and I cannot wait because such a good book. The third thing that I pulled for our adult books set at schools, I just read last month. So if you want a more in-depth review of this book, I'm going to put the books that I read in July as at the end. So watch this video through, stick with me, and then go back and watch that, and I will give you a lot more feedback on this and the next book on this stack, because there are 2 that I read in July that had to do with being set at schools. So this is Murder Your Employer, and this is set again at a school for assassins. Our main character, Iverson, ends up at this school that is supposed to teach him how to be such a great killer that he would never get caught. There are other students there. It follows also 2 of those. And so the bulk of the book is set at the school, and then they go out into the world for their final exam kind of thing, their thesis, I believe is what it's, if I remember correctly, is what it's called. It's slower than you might think, but if you know ahead, it's really about the school. It's not like a mystery type thing. It's not like a thriller. It's about being at school as an adult. It's really good for that. I did enjoy that aspect of it a lot. So if you'd like that kind of thing, I think you would really like this. The next thing on this stack, and I think if you watched my July, you're like, oh, I know what's coming. This is my favorite thing that I've read so far this year. This is Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. It's great. It is set at a school for dragon riders. Again, my much more in-depth review of it is in my What I Read in July video. But basically, it's a young woman, 20-year-old woman, is forced into a school to learn how to be a dragon rider, even though she knows she's not physically capable. She doesn't meet the standards for what is expected, and she fully expects she's going to get killed. Hijinks ensue left, right, and center. It is so exciting. It is a page turner. I never wanted to put it down, and then I was mad at myself for finishing it as fast as I did. It's brilliant. Dragon riding school sounds awesome, except for the whole, like, getting killed a lot. But other than that, it sounds like a really great school to go to. And the next thing that I picked is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. Leigh Bardugo does write YA, but this was her first foray into adult fantasy. And it is adult fantasy, but set in our world. It's pretty, with exceptions, it's pretty much our world. So she is going to university. The main character is going to university. She's part of a group that watches over the fraternities and sororities in the school, but the fraternities and sororities aren't like Greek life that we know of. If you're in the US, you know what that is. It's more like magical societies and that kind of thing, and so they watch over them and make sure they're not doing anything harmful or that would hurt other people from kind of going off the deep end. And obviously, if you need a society to do that, then there's a reason you need to watch it. And so lots of, again, hijinks ensue. It was great from beginning to end. I will say this, when I first started it, I don't know if it was me or if I was just expecting YA and it would be easier to read, but I got to page 40 and realized I had no idea what was going on. So I closed the book, went back to page 1 and reread it. I was fine and in love with it. I'm so glad I didn't DNF on page 40 because I was confused. So it's not one that you can kind of think about other things for. It is one that you need to give it your full concentration, but it's totally worth it. Such a good book. I pulled some additional books that, while the main plot line is not about being in school, they are set in schools. If you just want something that's kind of seasonal, but you don't necessarily want to read about people going to classes each day, even if they're awesome classes about killing people, these might work for you. The first is The Plot. Our main character is a writer who's kind of blocked and feeling really down on their writing, so they end up teaching a writing course. And in the writing course, they have a student who begrudgingly tells them this plot. It's really a premise, but they tell them this plot line for what is supposed to be the perfect book. It's an instant bestseller, could never go wrong. With poor writing, you can go wrong with any plot, it doesn't matter. But I digress. That is me sharing my opinions on kind of the way the book is set up, but it's really well done. The teacher gets this plot, and thinking about it months later, they look up the student on the internet and discover that the student has died in a car crash and never got around to writing the book. So what's the harm in just going ahead and writing it themselves? So here we are. That's kind of where it starts, and then stuff and things happen as it goes. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great, and I loved it from beginning to end. So this is great if you like that kind of, you've got it kind of a teacher perspective. Again, there's a school in there, but it's not the main thing, isn't about the school. The main thing is about our main character and dealing with their writing and the ethics of taking someone else's idea. The next one that I thought of was Celeste Ng's Our Missing Hearts. This is not about being at a school at all, but one of our main characters was a professor and still works at a university in the library. And so what happens in this book is that the country goes through a really bad recession, and to get themselves out of it, they just start blaming China and by extension anyone of Chinese or any kind of Asian country heritage who is in the US. And they start making all of these rules against anyone who is of Asian descent, mainly China, mainly of Chinese descent, and being afraid that they're anti-American if they support China or Chinese Americans. The husband in this, he loses his job because while he is not Chinese, his wife is a Chinese American. She was born in the US, so she is full American, but her parents had immigrated from China. And so all of this oppression of groups of people and all that's happening with it, it's so well done. Large sections of it are set on a university campus, but being at school isn't part of the plot. It's just the setting. And so I love this. This is beautiful, and if you have not read it, I cannot more strongly advise it. It's wonderful. The next thing I picked is a romance that is set on a university campus, and it is Take a Hint, Dani Brown. I love these books. So if you are unfamiliar, this is a series of 3 books. The first one is Get a Life, Chloe Brown. This is the second, and then third is Act Your Age, Eve Brown. You don't have to read them in that order, but they would possibly spoil each other because the 3 sisters do end up in each other's books. They have very minor kind of cameo parts in each other's books. So for this one, Take a Hint, Dani Brown. Dani Brown is our protagonist, and she is a professor at a university. She meets a security guard for her building, and while she is not looking for a relationship, they end up having to fake date. I'm not going to tell you why. Go read the book. It is so good. So if you like fake dating trope, if you like things that are set on campuses, but we're not talking about students, we're talking about teachers and security staff and all of that kind of thing, I think you would really like this. It's so good. It's short, it's light, it's fun, it just gives you the feels. It's really great. I went fast, I know. I'm exhausted. It's my first week back teaching, and I gotta say, there is never an accurate depiction in the media of what back to school is like for teachers, because unless they have us walking in the door and face planting on the bed and waking up again the next morning to do it again, it's not accurate. So that was a little short, but I hope that you enjoyed it. Remember, I'm gonna leave my July what I read as it's down here somewhere, so if you would like to see more of my thoughts on Murder Your Employer and Fourth Wing, those are in there along with a bunch of other things that I read then. In the meantime, I really, really hope that you have an amazing week and that neither of us are super exhausted next week. That's my hope, and that you get to read some really amazing books. Bye, y'all.